Well, the festival's changed a lot in the last, say, 5 years. And that's driven by, I think, the changes throughout the whole of the industry. So all the different types of people that are now coming, compared to in the past when it was, broadly speaking, advertising agencies came to the festival. And that's been driven mainly by the client attendance. So clients have come in the last 10 years or so, really driven by Unilever and Procter & Gamble, and followed now by around about 3,500 clients come to the festival, about 25% of the people who attend. And then around that, of course, you've got, it's kind of like a mirror of the industry. So you've got all of the digital players, the new media players, designers, PR people, media people, and increasingly ad tech. So all of that ecosystem is now attending Cannes. It's a reflection of the industry. Well, I think digital and ad tech is clearly a very critical part of the industry. What we find quite interesting is that, of course, our festival is really just about creativity. You know, we're about how creativity can drive businesses and how creativity can increase the return on investment of the work that you do. So kind of finding a place for ad tech has been a challenge, but this year, of course, we've launched our Innovation Festival, and the ad tech guys have been coming to Cannes for a few years actually, but not necessarily engaging in the main festival itself, the Cannes Lions itself. And so we think the innovation part will give them an opportunity to show what they can do to add to the conversations around creativity.
Do you think that advertisers and agencies have an innovation problem right now, or are they doing just fine?
I think it depends in terms of whether agencies and clients are innovating. I think it depends on the agency and it depends on the client. You know, there are some that have got very well established innovation labs. They're investing in small businesses and startups. They embed them within their organizations. You know, there's a lot of innovation happening. But I think that bringing together, one of the things that the Lions Innovation Festival will do is bring together the startup community with the ad tech community and the clients and the agencies. And that's a conversation that hasn't really happened before. So Unilever, for instance, are bringing 50 startups to a startup academy that we've got. RGA are also sponsoring some activity around startups. So I think that marrying and that mixture of different types of people will make it very interesting. Yeah, in terms of the program, we try and make it as rich and as diverse as we can, and it kind of spans creative people from other industries. So that's whether that's Kenneth Branagh speaking, Jamie Oliver's speaking, Marilyn Manson, people like that, musicians, designers, filmmakers, those kind of people. And then we try and have just people who've got something very interesting to say. So Monica Lewinsky's speaking about her being the very first person that was cyber-bullied before that was even invented, and Al Gore and people like that. And then we have a lot of course, industry people, both clients and agencies speaking, which is really the heart of what the festival tries to do.
And one of the big fixtures of the festival is, of course, the awards. Care to give us any sneak hints as to if not the winners, then what has the calibre of submission been this year?
It's interesting that our submissions, we're just coming to the end of our entry submissions now, so the last few stragglers are coming in. And across our Health Festival, the Innovation Festival and the main Cannes Lions, we'll probably get around about 40,000 entries globally. And it's interesting because this year it really has mirrored what the industry is saying is happening. So if you look at our print category, it's down quite a lot. Our outdoor category is probably going to be down. Things like cyber and PR and media and promo are up. Design is up. So those kind of elements are definitely coming up in the mix. The more traditional media is going down. Having said that, radio is very strong and film is very strong as well. So it's not quite as simple a picture as you might imagine.
Yeah, and so it's been going 62 years. When you think about the next 5-10 years, how do you imagine Cannes Lions evolving over that period?
Well, we changed from being an advertising festival, the Festival of Advertising, to the Festival of Creativity about 5 years ago. And that really gave permission, I think, for a lot of other types of people to come who didn't feel they were in advertising. You know, that advertising is quite a limited way of looking at the world. And what that did was allowed a lot more people within the ecosystem to come to the festival. And I think that will continue. So the startup community and the VC community are only just starting to come. old media, I mean traditional media, whatever you might want to call it, magazine publishers, newspaper publishers are actually only just starting to really come, which is amazing when you think about it. So as the world changes and as ad tech as well becomes more and more part of the conversation, I think what will happen is that a bigger group and more diverse group of people will come to the festival. And that will be married, I think, by the global changes that we see. So we're seeing a lot more delegates from places like India and China, from Africa, from Latin America, and it's less dominated by the US and Western Europe.
Where are the US and Western Europe right now, in an economic context? So if advertising is a proxy for economic health, I guess, what is the state and the conversations that you have with advertising people suggest about those regions' economies right now?
Well, in terms of advertising and the marketing community in general, when it comes to the US and Europe, it's two different stories. I mean, the UK is actually standing apart from the rest of Europe. So delegates from the UK are up. If you look at the Lions from last year, the UK had a very, very strong showing. A lot of entries come from the UK. So UK is very, very strong, I think, from a creative perspective, and certainly we see that when they're engaging with our festival. The US is equally as strong. I mean, the US it's very interesting because if you look at the speakers that come to Cannes, it's quite heavily US biased. I think that's to do with the cultural power of the United States in every possible way, whether that's everything from Twitter to Facebook and all those new media guys, Hollywood. There's just a very powerful economic and cultural force. And creatively, the States is by far the most successful business country in Cannes. For the rest of Europe, it's a slightly different story. So France and Germany and Spain and Italy are less buoyant in that regard, which does reflect the economic situation.